Okay, so welcome to the Conservation Careers podcast. It's Nick here from Conservation Careers, and this is the happy hour version of the podcast where myself and our two co-hosts, yes, I got the word right, joining us today. We're going to discuss a topic which hopefully is of interest to you, the audience, in detail. And joining us are, first up, it's our head of community, as we're now calling him, Fernando Mateos-González, or Nando. Hey, Nando, how you doing?
Hi there. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the happy hour.
Welcome to the happy hour. Maybe we should just call it that and just have done with it.
It's the happy hour for us.
It's good. Yeah. Like group coaching, maybe, or yeah, something like that. Good to have you. And joining us is our new and regular co-host as well. It's our head of engagement, Kristi Foster. Hey, Kristi.
Hi. Great
Kristi.
to be here. Yeah, excited to be back. And it feels a little bit too early in the day for happy hour for me, but I still think it's a good name.
Yeah, we're all in different countries, we should say. So I'm in the UK, Nando's in Czech Republic, so you're an hour forwards, and Kristi, you're in Rio right now. So it's like 2:15 for us in the UK. What is it at your end at the moment?
11:15. Still
Yeah,
morning.
still a bit early. But you're coming to
for
Carnival.
For us, the happy hour side of this is that we sit down after doing a million different things, and now it's a calm time to chat. How are things going? It's so relaxing. We all look forward to this one.
I feel more relaxed already. Thank you, because I messed up the first intro. So we normally start with a bit of a catch up as to what's been going on, and then we'll sort of dive into our topic. Who's going to start? As Nando, you've always got super interesting stuff going on in your world, and I know you've been bouncing around.
I'm the field agent of conservation careers.
That's it, the mercenary biologist out there. What's been going on since we last? Yeah, that's it. What's been going on since we last chatted? Go on.
I don't remember what we chatted about last time, but many things are happening at the same time here in the field. On one side is we have the last days of snow in the mountains here in the Czech Republic. So I've been trying very hard to do some snow tracking, looking for links. And at the same time, with this climate change situation, weather is quite mild in the south, where the sasslicks, the European ground squirrels, are. It's so mild and warm now in the south that the squirrels are coming out of hibernation quite early. So two parts of my fieldwork that were usually separated now are overlapping. So this is a bit of a mess, but very, very nice. So yesterday we were, for example, in a rural airport, or an airport there in the south, which it's made only of grass, and it's a perfect environment for these European ground squirrels. And we were preparing some experiments, preparing some like testing different protection fences for crops to see how if we can create some sustainable conservation for these squirrels, so that everybody is happy and conservation is not hindering agriculture, for example. So we are starting some of those experiments. And then we did many things. No, I told you that I had in our CC Pro group, I was commenting that I was incognito in Austria, looking for illegal traps that some people put to catch mammals. So we were trying to locate some of them and feed the information to the local conservation groups. Look, we have found this. Do something. So that was very exciting too.
Do you find any?
We found a few, unfortunately, and yes, the police got involved, and some people are having trouble now. But it's good. Let's hope that it feels kind of a conservation superhero mission. It was the kind of work we wanted to do when we were coming out of university. Not something. It was very nice. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So how about you guys?
Yeah. Well, Kristi, yeah, what's been going down at your end?
Well, I haven't had any conservation hero moments per se. I haven't been out tracking mammals, but it is unofficial carnival here in Rio in Brazil. So they postponed carnival until April, but there's still lots of costumed and glittery people out in the streets. And I thought I just mentioned, I don't know if many people watching will know this, but Rio actually has one of the largest national parks or urban forests in the world. Wow. So it's like something like 4,000 hectares. And it's called Tijuca, and it's part of a UNESCO site. So it's massive, and not something most people think about when they think of Rio. So planning to get into it and exploring it more.
And that's part of or really close to the city?
Yeah, it's like on top of the city. So if you've ever seen a picture of or a photo of the big Christ, the white Christ,
yeah,
like up on a mountain in Rio, that's on the edge of the forest. It's actually technically, I think, part of the forest. Yeah, and you can go in there. You can do like multi-day hikes. It's huge.
Multi-day hikes.
Oh yeah, wow. It's giant.
That sounds great. You got to get out there.
Did you get? I had the burning question. Did you have a costume?
I did have a costume. Yeah, I recycled an old dance costume with some wings and a tail. But everyone dresses up here. It's not just like you go to a party like you might do in Canada or somewhere else, and you put on a costume. You spend 5 days walking around the streets in costume. It's another level. Yeah.
Fantastic.
I love that. Just sort of stood queuing for a coffee, like dressed as like a big bird or a fairy, maybe.
Exactly that.
Amazing.
But I guess on a more professional side of things, I just wanted to say that we've welcomed recently new social media officers volunteering at Conservation Careers, and a lot of Conservation Careers bloggers who volunteer with us, and they've been starting to do some really awesome work. So I just wanted to sort of congratulate them and say I'm excited to have them on board.
That's brilliant. It's brilliant. They do such good work for us too, like the social media volunteers. They help to promote the articles that we write and share, and that the bloggers write and share too, and also the jobs and everything else that we're kind of running, courses and other things. So, and what's really important to us with the volunteers as well, recognizing that we're not paying for their work or their time, is that they get more out of the experience than we put in. That's always our goal for those guys. So, we put them through our training courses. We help support them as best we can. Kristi do a great job managing them. So, if they're listening at all, thank you guys. We love what you do. Yeah.
You are stars.
You are. You're stars. Yeah. What's going on? I'm trying to think what's going on at my end as well since we last chatted. I think possibly, I guess the main thing is I've managed to leave the office myself a couple of times too. So I'm quite kind of desk-based nowadays, unlike you guys. And I did manage to go to Cambridge a couple of times recently. So we're really lucky to kind of be helping support. And there's a master's in conservation leadership at Cambridge Uni, which is only about an hour down the road for me, so fairly local to where I live. And each year I go and sort of lead 3 sessions of kind of career planning for these quite amazing group of individuals that come from around the globe. There's about 20 of them. They're from about 20 different countries as well. So they're really international. They're sort of mid-career conservation professionals. So they've been working already for a number of years beforehand. They come to Cambridge for a year. They do loads of different training as part of their master's program. And then some go back to kind of previous careers, previous jobs. Some just go on to other stuff and kind of have it's like a moment, like a pause moment of training, and then on they go. So I kind of almost get them at a kind of really unique point in their careers where they're kind of pausing, reflecting, maybe not even thinking too much about work, but they're just kind of thinking about their current duties and, their training and everything like that. And a lot of them have uncertainties about what next as well. And we have kind of 3 really good sessions looking back at their career, focusing about what they've learned so far, what they want to bring with them, about where they might want to go. And then we talk about, well, how do you put in great applications, develop and deliver for great interviews as well, and all that sort of stuff. The whole kind of career coaching program that we do in other guises, but just for this cohort. And it's really fun. It's really nice for me to kind of get out from the office and go and actually stand in front of people and meet them and talk and teach and do that side of stuff, which is nice. And I also,
it sounds epic.
It's great, yeah. And also to kind of take the opportunity to meet with other people in Cambridge that I kind of used to work with or know as well in different ways. So the last 2 sessions I met with my old boss from BirdLife, Ada Long, who's an old friend, and we had a lovely lunch and sort of caught up together. And also, and it's going to link through to our topic in a second too, in the last time I went was I met with my old, I guess, coach and mentor, a lady called Carrie, who's an entrepreneur in her own right and ran a kind of training program that I kind of went through back in the day. So I sort of reconnected with a couple of local people, which was really nice. So nice to be out, nice to be teaching. And actually, while I was teaching on the course, I had a fantastic email, which also you got, Kristi, as well, from, I guess we'll keep their name anonymous because I didn't say I was going to share on the podcast. But as we had like a little task in the kind of the moment, in teaching, everyone was doing their work, I quickly looked down at my emails, which probably shouldn't do. But an email dropped in from someone who said that they'd attended one of our training programs about how to apply for jobs, and they just got a place on the Masters in Conservation Leadership at Cambridge University. And I was stood there in front of the guys there, and then as that email dropped in, so it's one of those kind of strange small world moments. Yeah, it was lovely. And I read it out to the people in the room, and they all gave like a round of applause to that person. So yeah, it's just
nice,
really nice. Yeah, so it's quite nice just to kind of see the network and the interaction, and it's the coincidence come along quite rapidly when you live in a small world like conservation, I think. So yeah, so quite a lot of
experience almost deserves its own podcast, no? An episode we could do, trying to find the commonalities of these people that are mid-careers, and what are their biggest maybe regrets or their biggest achievements, and which parts are common that we could learn from them.
That would be really nice, wouldn't it? Yeah. And also I think just the role that coincidence plays, I think, in careers, and particularly within our sector, like you guys just met by coincidence in the jungle.
Serendipity.
Serendipity is so, and being open to that sort of serendipity that comes along. Exactly. Yeah. It's definitely important. Which I guess sort of leads us a little bit into our topic today. So we hadn't planned enormously before, but we did kind of share a few thoughts. And the one that I think we all like is a focus, like a discussion around, I guess, career changing moments. When we look back at our careers and sort of reflect on what we've done. I think probably I'm fair to say, and I don't want to speak on behalf of you guys, but for me, I never really had a career plan. I just sort of weaved and wandered and kind of meandered through. But when you look back, there were definitely kinks in the road that were really important for me to get to where I am, and who knows, what's going to come next. And so we thought it might be quite fun just to kind of reflect back and sort of share what are those moments that changed our careers, and I guess could we learn anything from them too? I guess linking to what we just said a minute ago, Nando, like, is there sort of like a common theme that helps to stand out that maybe others could learn from? So that's the topic: career changing moments. I feel I've done enough talking. Who would like to kind of kick us off with a reflection from your own career?
I'm happy to go with.
Yeah, go on, Kristi.
That's okay. I was trying to do a quick brainstorm of this before we jumped on the call, and it's hard because there's so many moments, and I have a story about doing my master's only because I got the flu, and then getting like really key job only because I hiked for 5 days with my laptop on my back in a forest in New Zealand. There's a bunch of random ones in there. And there was the moment when Nando and I met in the jungle just by fluke, and then ended up working together. There's many, but I guess for me there's sort of two key ones that were pivotal, and some of you might have heard me share at least one of them already. But the first was my first sort of paid internship, which turned into a paid job, and I was switching sort of from geology or earth science into the environmental sector at the time. So I'd done my first degree. I got a little bit of experience, and I was just totally bottoming out applying for jobs. I just wasn't getting anywhere. And I ended up applying for this research assistant position with they're called the International Institute of Sustainable Development in Canada. And they used to fund this Young Leaders for Sustainable Development program where they placed Canadians abroad with other organizations. And I did it in their last year. So I applied for what I thought I was targeting at the time, which was a research assistant position. I was just bent on that, and got into the interview, which was with an organization in Kenya. And about halfway through, they told me they're not looking at all for a research assistant. They wanted a science communications person. And I'm kind of sat there thinking, what's this? This is not something I applied for. I was just preparing for an interview that has absolutely nothing to do with, how it was advertised. So I was a little bit ticked off actually at the time. But I went away and I thought about it, and I ended up doing it. And it was actually one of the best, probably door-opening roles I've ever had. I had so many opportunities. I learned so much in a short period of time. I got to travel. I got to do a bunch of projects, and that kind of launched a career in communications for me. So that was I guess one.
And how long did that last for? Was that like a 6-month thing, or?
It was a 6-month internship, and then I stayed on for another couple of months as a consultant. And I probably would have stayed longer, but because of where it was based and because of having like family and stuff going on in Canada, I couldn't stay away longer at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was fun. Like, I can't believe how much happened in those 6 months.
And do you think they saw like communications as something that you have a talent in that you hadn't maybe spotted yourself? Or because it seems like nowadays, I think of you as such a great communicator, you're great in the written form and in the verbal form and everything else, but you hadn't spotted it in yourself then, but they did.
I think that's probably exactly what happened. I'd always loved writing, and I'd always written. I just never remotely considered it as a career path. I was kind of bent on the science thing. And then I had to submit a piece of writing when I applied for the research assistant role, and they picked that out and just said, more of this. So that was how it happened. Wow. Yeah, just seemingly by fluke, but I think it was like, go back to what you learned. It was actually a recognition that there's other things that I was good at and really liked doing that I hadn't considered.
And you didn't know.
Yeah.
And then, do you know if they still offer this internship?
No, I was the last year. It's possible that they've developed something else since then. It's too bad because it was a brilliant program. So I hope that there's more of that available in future. Yeah.
I think what happened, Nando, is Kristi did it, and then they went, never again. We're finishing this program now.
Our job is done.
We've learned the lesson.
We cannot do it better. So.
It's what's interesting also is that someone else kind of saw talent in you as well. And one thing we like with the Kickstarter course, one of the kind of the little units that we have, the tasks is around people's like superpowers. We sort of, individually, we've all got different powers and skills that we're uniquely good at and gifted towards that are good to try and bring into your careers if you can. And it's often hard to spot them, but other people who know you fairly well can do that for you. So we ask, and if I guess people listening might want to do it, is you can share via social media if you're feeling brave. You can go direct to friends and family and colleagues and just ask them, if you'd say I have an ability or a superpower that I uniquely possess that I'm good at, what would you say that thing is? And for you, Kristi, communications is clearly one of them. And you never know what your friends and family are going to share. So it's quite interesting. Someone else spotted that, in you as well.
Yeah, such a good exercise.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. One of my favorites.
And Nando, when you look back at your kind of squiggly, wiggly, increasingly wiggly career, like what?
Increasingly wiggly.
You got so much, exploding, I guess, diversifying maybe is better. Yeah. What moments kind of stand out as kind of career changing or defining for you?
As we were thinking about this topic just minutes before starting recording, and now when Kristi mentioned her multiple stories and potential things to say here, I remember this famous inaugural talk. I think these talks they give at the beginning or at the end of the university, usually in the US. And there was this famous one by Steve Jobs where he told 3 stories, and one of them was the conclusion was that you only join the dots backwards when looking back. Yeah. At the beginning, as you said, Nick, no, we have a career, and I had a general idea. Some will say quite specific. No, you want to be a biologist, you want to study animals and work with animals, and that was always very clear. I was lucky with that, having that clear idea. But beyond that, I didn't know how one earn money with this career or earn a life with this career. So it also happened to me that it was like point to point, dot to dot. And only now, looking back, you say, as Kristi, you say, it was for this. If I hadn't done this, then I wouldn't be here now. And of course, because of age, I have now many of those dots. But as I was trying to think of, one that comes back always, and I think I might have mentioned it in another episode, maybe, or some other podcast. It's something that happened at by the end of my second postdoc. So to give a bit of background, I studied biology, then did a master's, a PhD, and then continued in this academic career and did first a postdoc in Sweden, or 2 half postdocs in Sweden, and then I moved to the US and did another postdoc there. By the end of that postdoc, I was feeling drained. I had spent many months in a very small room with no windows doing experiments with fish, behavioral experiments, recording them with cameras, which was fantastic. I had lots of fun looking at the fish and getting to know them and giving them names. But I really, really, really missed being outside in the field. And then I had the lucky opportunity of going to the field to meet those fish in their natural habitat. And those fish live in Lake Tanganyika in Zambia. And what happened there really, it was really a pivotal moment, because we were setting up quite complicated like experimental setups underwater in the sun to study the behavior of these fish, these little fish. And they use shells as little houses, and they defend them and uncover some of them, moving their fins and blowing water, and then some cover the shells of the other ones, and they fight like this. So we had been setting up with pieces of color rope, setting up where the individuals were, so we could go every day to the same spot. Just imagine a very dark and murky water that usually it was like that in the lake. How do you find again the same fish you were looking at yesterday in underwater? Can you imagine? So you had to do this, putting long ropes and following these ropes later to the exact spot, and then there you set up the rocks and put some tripods and stuff. So we had all this ready at the beginning of the season, and then one day we went diving again there, and everything was destroyed. It was completely destroyed. And what had happened is that the local fishermen from some island had dragged a net when fishing all over our setup. So lots of work went totally destroyed. And I remember I was devastated. It was now we have to start again. We don't know if we have enough time. So we went to talk to the I don't know how he was called, but it was like the head of the village. And we went there, and you can imagine typical village there with the mud huts, and and I don't know, very, very, very poor people. And you went there to tell them, you were trying to fish and you destroyed my experiment. But of course, when you arrive there and they show you the fish they are trying to fish, tiny, tiny fish, and they are trying to eat from this or sell in the market. And then you go there with your first world problem that, no, I'm trying to study the behavior of this fish. I felt kind of, but what am I doing? I should be trying to get more fish here, bigger fish, or helping these people to get more food and helping the fish too. And it was really a pivotal moment like that, because I realized that even though I kept thinking that research is very important and we need to advance in every aspect at the same time, also have this knowledge of the fish and see how evolution works and everything is important. What I felt personally is that I needed more hands-on action. I needed to be on top of this, have more immediate results with my work. I could write a paper for conservation maybe, but the results from that I wouldn't see in years maybe. But instead, it led me to what I'm doing right now. As I was saying at the beginning of the episode, like now I do things that have an immediate effect, and that goes very well with my personality, way of working. And so that little anecdote there made me really think. I remember having breakfast the day after in front of Lake Tanganyika, the sun, people saying hi from the boats, and I was there thinking about my potential career changes after this. And then I say, that's it. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to leave academia. I'm going to do direct conservation. And that's how I became an action man.
That's an amazing story. Yeah. It's amazing the sort of clarity it brought about. There's a lot of people that do, science, and I guess even conservation science, where it's quite theoretical. They're doing just like you did, studying like fish behavior and trying to unpick like the nuances of life and I guess diversity and evolution and everything else. Like, how do you feel about people that do that? Do you think that's an important role and it's good for someone else? It doesn't meet your personality type, or do you think more researchers just need to focus on conservation problems and
I mean, it's really hard. The problem is that we need the basis and the background and this information, right, to actually inform the actions we take to do conservation. Yeah. Like if we don't know the behavior of an animal, it's going to be very difficult, and we are very prone to commit an error in conservation if we plan a conservation project. If we don't know, I don't know, when the squirrels wake up usually from hibernation, then we might have problems when setting up or when asking for funding and saying, yeah, we will be in the field from January to April. But the squirrels are not awake then. So, I mean, this is a very simple example, but you can see this in all challenges. So what I really think is that we need more people in conservation, but every person doing different things, and we more communicating, thanks Kristi, with each other to have this information and to help each other in this. And I mean, funnily enough, I'm now working half time in pure research again, because I have another part-time job with a research institution in Lithuania, and I do hardcore research like before, and I still love it. But now I have this. I also want this thrill of get the answer to my actions, immediate results. I also like that. So I manage now. It's a tough equilibrium. I need to work a bit less, but I manage now to be on both sides, no, and the information part and creating this background and then creating this action. And so yes, but I can pinpoint the exact moment, this career changing moment, and in this Lake Tanganyika. That's a beautiful thing. I used to use it as an initial paragraph in my cover letters when I was planning why I was looking for a job after academia.
I love it.
It's kind of fascinating, isn't it? Because it's something that at first glance was really negative. All your setup was destroyed, and that turned into what was like a life-changing pivotal moment for you in your career and led to so much other positive stuff that's fulfilling to you. That's so neat.
It's a serendipity again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's there's the thread. Yeah.
What about you, Nick? What's your pivotal story?
I'm not sure if I've got like, I mean, there were moments in my life where I look back and go, those were really important to me. I've talked about some of them before, so I won't sort of repeat them too much. But I think seeing my first barn owl was a real moment for me. Like I was literally just looking through some binoculars, scanning up and down, and all of a sudden, bump, it was right filling my binoculars in front of me. I'd never seen a barn owl before. And so for me, it was a bit of a dream come true moment, and a real moment that led to me going on and studying them later, and possibly even that actual bird as well, like studying later at university. And that was important. But I think I was sort of trying to reflect also before the podcast. There's one experience I had that I've not talked about much before, which was I took a year's work placement when I was doing my undergraduate. So it became like a 4-year degree in biology, sort of specializing in ecology. And between my second and third academic years, I just took a year off and had some work experience, like in industry. And who I worked for was for, it's called the Central Science Laboratories, which is kind of near York in the north of England. And it was part of the Department for Environment, Fisheries, or was it Farming and Rural Affairs, DEFRA in the UK. So it's a government-funded civil service job. I was there for a year with 2 other students as well from my course. And the students that were doing this kind of just got sprinkled across lots of different organizations and industry. And I just happened to be in this one quite large research body that was just like 10 miles down the road from the uni. And my job was to study feral cats and to go around the UK and try and figure out, well, how many feral cats are there in particularly kind of like high density areas. So like they would be like old industrialized areas, like old mill towns and ports and places like that, where cats were just living and surviving as small communities in the wild themselves, sometimes being fed by people, but generally kind of looking after themselves, like almost like semi-wild cats in these urban areas. And the reason behind it was for like rabies contingency planning. So we don't have rabies in the UK. And there was always a worry that if rabies came into the UK from the continent, that cats would be like a big vector to humans because we get so close to them and domesticating and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, my job for a year was to go around and do surveys for cats, which just meant literally knocking on the door saying, do you see cats regularly in this area? And do you know how many, and try and figure out how many are in this area, and to put some sort of density estimates on it and redo a survey that was done previously. And to be honest, it was a bit of a naff project. I enjoyed it, like the driving around aspect and seeing different places, but I wasn't really into the study and the survey and what I was doing. And in fact, day one in the job, I was given like a big kind of folder, there's your folder, kind of, read up the background to it. And I was reading, and they printed out all the emails. This is back in the day where people just print emails out and keep them on file. And the first email I read was like, just had, a meeting with the professors from York University to share ideas for work placements. They liked all the ideas. Even the dubious feral cat project idea was written. I was like, that's the one I got.
Dubious.
they even knew themselves it wasn't very good. Yeah. Anyway, but the reason I mentioned it was a really good year in general. So I kind of put pause on my study for a year. I did something that was kind of learning about what it's like to be in the workplace. I did the feral cat stuff probably like in half my time. It wasn't that big a project, sort of did it on the side and did as much other stuff while I was there as I could. So I did loads of like farmland bird surveys. I did lots of small mammal trapping. I got involved in lots of trapping stuff. I even did some sort of barn owl stuff that I kind of brought in with me and sort of did quietly on the side, like pellet analysis and that sort of thing. And just met and spoke with lots of other scientists and researchers who were there. And so at the end of it, I had a kind of really good kind of rounded experience of doing loads of different things, which definitely helped me later in my career and also helped me to understand what it's like to work within like a civil service kind of government role. They're quite different to other roles. And that was really valuable. And I think the other thing I kind of took away from it too was, well, apart from being paid for a year, which is quite nice, was it kind of just, it slowed me down a little bit too. I think it's quite easy at uni to kind of jump in 3 years, get your degree and almost be spat out then at the other side and start job hunting, quite hard. And that's be quite a pressurized situation. Whereas for me, I had an extra year to kind of slow down, which gave me more experience, a bit of money. And then by the time I kind of came to graduate, I was reasonably employable, I guess. I did some other stuff as well. I then did a PhD, which was 3 years, became also 4 years because I kind of extended it too. So I really had like 8 years at uni, which was just a long time. And, you know, I think I sort of just enjoyed the pace of that and everything it kind of gave me. So, yeah, I think that 1 year in industry was a good time for me to kind of just slow things up a little bit and to get some actual experience rather than just learning knowledge, actually applying some of it and kind of getting the skills that employers were looking for as a result of that. And actually, so they part funded my PhD as well as a result of it, Central Science Labs.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so the connections and network really helped. And they gave me some work as well, like consultancy type work, a bit like you, Kristi, off the back of it too. So I sort of did some extra studies and surveys of various things, you know, off the back of that too. So yeah, really valuable time. Yeah. But I wouldn't.
Do you think is like taking this quote gap year because you were working hard? Taking it early on probably had the effect of the compound interest effect, no? Like if you had done it later, you wouldn't have gotten so much out of it. But because you did it at the or early in your career, then you had many more years to benefit from what you learned and from that dipping your toes in the job market before finishing. It's a smart move.
Yeah. I sort of did it by chance, really, but you're right. It definitely helps, to sort of learn those lessons early. And also good to do at uni, I guess, because if I'd just done 3 years and then started looking for the work, I probably wouldn't have landed that sort of job, or might have struggled. But as a kind of work placement, you know, it's fairly easy to secure. And that was basically a year's paid work, you know, so when I graduate, I'm not starting from nothing, I'm starting from something. Yeah, it really definitely makes a difference. Yeah. So I guess if people are listening and you have an opportunity to do a placement as part of your project, it's a really good, valuable thing to do. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
as you mentioned, like you might feel, or people, even your parents very often might say, no, you have to finish as soon as possible and get to work because that's your priority. But actually with this, it's only 1 year of your 40-year professional career or more.
Yeah.
And that year, I mean, the next year when you finish with your peers, you will be maybe only 1 year older than what they were, your previous peers. Yeah. But the contrast you have with these people, like you will have much more experience, and for an external employer, they will look at both of you and say, I mean, this guy has much more experience and is more mature. And
totally. So and actually quite a few people went off and then ended up working for the people they've been, you know, working for during their year's work experience as well. So it often led to employment for a lot of people. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that I think when you do try those different things, and sometimes they're even, you know, you might not think they're exactly the right fit, or they're not even necessarily that closely related with what you're going for. Yeah. You know, years, sometimes months or years later, they'll come back and they'll still fit into part of the puzzle that allows you to take other steps in your career. You know, so it's very rare that they're wasted. And I mean, Nick, for you, that's probably part of what's allowed you to understand so many different job types in the sector and bring that into conservation careers, having done a bunch of those.
Definitely did. Yeah. Like and then I left academia and went into consultancy, which is business and so on. So I was always looking at the different types of employers as well at the same time and seeing how differently
everything
they function. Yeah. By happenstance though. Yeah. And I guess the funny thing is that it was you've been paid to do it, just like a PhD, Nando. I think almost like you need to see that as a job. Like if parents are going to put pressure on you, you need to get work and get employed. It's like, well, this is 1 year's employment, you know, and the PhD is 3 or 4 years employment, you know. This is valuable stuff. You're being paid, you're getting skills, experiences. It's all part of the career. You're not waiting for your career to start. It has started. You're in it. You're doing it. Yeah.
Did it have any negative? I'm sorry. Yeah, I just
go on. Yeah.
That did this year, taking this year, maybe separated of your friends in the university, or did it have any backslash that you remember?
Yeah, I guess when I went back, I was with a much smaller cohort from my original year. So my original year group had 80% had graduated and gone. So sort of back in with 20% of us that had gone off and done our things and come back together again. So a much smaller cohort, which I guess wasn't quite as good as sort of being with the and having to sort of meet new friends and things. But at the time, again, I was living with my then and still, good friend who was a warden on the local reserves. The reserves where I saw that original barn owl, he managed that reserve and still does to this day. And so I was either doing the work at the Central Science Labs, or I was out with him on the reserves, really. So I was still involved in university life, but my life was generally outdoors, doing outdoorsy stuff, because that's what I was really into at the time and would still like to be doing more of. But yeah, that was kind of almost like the tertiary thing. The main thing was just having fun outside, chasing birds and doing everything else that was happening at the time. So yeah. So there were some negatives, but I think overwhelmingly it was positive for me. Yeah, on reflection. Yeah. I'm sorry, guys, we're up on time. Time has absolutely flown today. Yeah, I'm in my little office at the end of the garden. My wife's going to kind of come in and start a meeting herself in a few minutes' time. So I think rather than sort of stop the conversation, maybe we can sort of hit pause on this topic, because I think there's a lot we could kind of explore about these kind of career-defining moments. And
so
really
much.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, there's loads. I'd love to hear about the backpacking Kristi for 5 days in New Zealand with the laptop.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a story behind that. Yeah.
We have to write it down.
Yeah. So let's hit pause on it.
And capture some of the stuff we've learned maybe across those experiences too. Would be neat.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
More soon, guys.
we can circle back. Yeah. So thanks, guys, for joining and for sharing your experiences as always. I normally say, if people want to find out more about it, where should they go? But nowadays we are sort of Team CC, really, aren't we? We're sort of formalized and crystallized a little bit more. So yeah, it's kind of great to kind of all be together like that. Thanks, everyone, for listening to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. And till next time, this is Nick, Nando, and Kristi signing off.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. Bye, everyone.
Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that, everyone. If you did, then please do hit the subscribe button to get notified of new episodes as they drop. And also, please give us a rating or a review, because it really helps us to get in front of more people. Now, if you want our help to get clear and get started and get hired as a professional conservationist, I recommend you enroll in our free online training program, exploring how to get a conservation job. So if you're a student, a job seeker, or a career switcher, you'll learn the golden rule about how to get started, the key mistakes to avoid, and also we'll answer your biggest questions. You can check that out at conservation-careers.com/free. See you soon. Have a topic which myself and the two I'll do that again. So we'll have a topic which myself and our two fellow cohort I haven't got my brain turned on again today. I'm going to start again. Yeah.
This makes me feel better, Nick, though, because you're normally so smooth.
Our imposter syndrome.
I've heard you follow your words.
We should keep this in. Yeah.